Welcome to the Flooring 101 podcast. I'm Jason Jabara. This show is dedicated to helping flooring retailers build better businesses through proven systems for sales, operations, marketing, and leadership. In this episode of Flooring 101, we discuss mastering retail sales, the showroom selling system, and specifically, qualification without awkwardness. Thanks for listening. Let's dive into today's episode. Hey, welcome to another edition of the Flooring 101 podcast. By now, hopefully you know me, but if not, I'm Jason Jabara, and I've spent the last 25 years in the retail flooring business, the last 10 as CEO of Jabara's Carpet Outlet, located in Wichita, Kansas. We're a single store operation, but we're one of the largest independent retailers in the United States. So I also spent 8 years on the Shaw Dealer Council, and I am starting my 5th year on the board of the directors of the World Floor Covering Association. So I have been in retail flooring for most of my life. And if you are in retail flooring and you're experiencing issues or thinking about getting into the retail flooring business, this podcast is for you. And as always, it is absolutely free. So we've talked about the retail flooring blueprint. You can pick up a copy of Flooring 101, How to Build a Better Business, in our Flooring 101 Etsy shop. Our first 10 episodes of the podcast gave you the retail flooring blueprint. And if you haven't listened, please go back and check out those first 10 episodes. Those first 10 episodes took you and new flooring dealers like you on a journey, and at the end of that journey, we gave you a 90-day roadmap on how to launch your own flooring business. And if you already have a flooring business, hopefully we're able to give you some new twists and tips and tricks that you can apply to your store right now. So, we're 19 episodes in. We've talked about some ancillary benefits of different industry partnerships, and we've gone one-on-one with successful flooring industry leaders like Reagan Eccles, Mark Carr, and Brent Ziegler. I hope you enjoyed those conversations, because we'll be having more guests pop in from time to time to let you know what makes their business unique and what they're doing to be successful. These are industry professionals who are in the weeds every day like you and I. They're some of my best friends in the flooring business, and I continue to learn from them every day, through texts and emails and phone call conversations. And, that's what it's all about, is best practices, picking up those best practices from other successful dealers and figuring out a way to integrate those operations into your business, because all of our flooring businesses are unique. If you're thinking about starting a flooring business, it's going to be unique to where you live, the demographics in your area, what your background is, and hopefully, if you've read the Flooring 101 book, or picked up a copy, or you listened to the first 10 episodes, that blueprint that we kind of navigate for you allows you to make some decisions on how to create the business that you've always dreamed of having. And talking with other business professionals, especially in the flooring space, can always help you out and give you some more tricks and tips in the trade. But, it's not always easy. And outside of this podcast, maybe you don't have professionals in the business that you can lean on for advice or bounce ideas off of. You don't want to call the company down the street or your competition, in this space. So let me take a quick minute, give you a couple other options that are out there for help. The first would be to keep listening to this podcast. Every week will be something new and unique that you should be able to find one or two nuggets that you can kind of integrate into your business. Secondly, download a copy of Flooring 101, Build a Better Business on Etsy. This is my manual that I created from my experiences over the last 25 years for new and existing dealers alike. Not only does it go in depth into the very same concepts that we're talking about on the podcast, but it comes with a stack of addendums and attachments that you can use in your business right now. Like, there's sample terms and conditions pages, there's installation guideline sheets, there's change order sheets, there's pre-installation checklists for your installers. It also has worksheets on how to create an SOP or a standard operating procedure that you can use in your business to build systems, build those foundational pieces in your business. It has a weekly team meeting that we use. We call it an L10. If you're familiar with EOS, that's the system that we use to kind of run our business. But each week we have a meeting. I have one with my senior management team. Each of my senior managers has their department team. So there's a sales meeting team, there's an operations team. We give you that SOP in the Flooring 101 manual. And there's just a ton of other stuff. So it's chock full of useful information. It can be found on Etsy in the Flooring 101 shop. So I'd encourage you to go check that out as well. Lastly, if you're really struggling, whether you're starting a new business or taking one over, and you just have questions, or you're just at a point where you don't know what to do and you don't know who to call, shoot me an email at info@jasonjabara.com or reach out to me on any of our social platforms. I'd love to get on the phone with you and discuss how I might be able to help you better run your flooring business. I love talking to dealers all across the country. Every day I find myself talking to somebody either through email or online or private messaging or text messages about the flooring industry, and I'd be happy to hear what's going on in your business. So keep all of that in mind. We're moving on from kind of starting your store and launching your store into running your store, the day-to-day tasks that will ensure your success. A few episodes back, we started talking about mastering retail sales and the showroom selling system. We've covered the modern flooring buyer, how to design a high converting showroom. And last week we discussed the 5-step retail flooring sales process: greet, qualify, educate, quote, and close. So today we'll be diving even a little further into mastering retail sales and even deeper into that part of the sales process, and specifically part 2, the qualification stage, when we discuss qualification without awkwardness. And remember, when we're talking about mastering retail sales, the transformation that we want to go to is, you may have inconsistent sales, not closing leads, not, closing that sale out. We want to move from that inconsistency to a predictable closing process. And that means understanding the modern buyer. It means designing a high quality, high converting showroom. And it means really getting down that 5-step retail flooring sales process, not only for yourself, but also for your RSAs. So, if you can get your RSAs or your sales staff to remove the awkwardness that is sometimes associated with the sales process, you can streamline that process and control the direction of the conversation in a professional and natural way that ultimately leads to your staff being able to close more sales in a shorter time frame, which brings you and your team one step closer to mastering retail flooring sales. So at the end of the podcast, let us know what you liked and what questions you might have. Remember, you can follow us on all of your favorite podcast locations like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on YouTube. You can also follow us on Substack, Reddit, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram under the Flooring 101 banner. Plus, if you want to get one-on-one and really dive into bettering your business, you can go to jasonjabara.com. You can book a free call. The calls are always free. We can get to know each other, get to know a little bit about your business and where I might be able to help you out. So if you stick with us, you're going to learn how to start, run, and scale a profitable flooring business through some proven systems for sales, operations, and marketing. So let's get into it. Mastering retail sales and qualification without awkwardness. So qualification is one of the most important and probably most misunderstood parts of the showroom sales process. We're in step 2 of the 5-step sales process. We've already greeted the customer without using yes/no questions. They've stepped into our showroom, or they made contact with you online through a leads capturing tool. So you know that they have already been somewhat qualified. Depending on how you're capturing those leads, maybe they're through AdWord campaigns, SEO stuff. Maybe you've got form fills on your website where they've already done some background knowledge and have decided to either come into your store or make contact with you via email. So now it's time to ask further questions to move them down the correct path. So, many flooring salespeople avoid asking direct questions because they don't want to seem too pushy or make the customer uncomfortable. But, avoiding qualification, it doesn't create a better experience for your customer. It creates confusion, wasted time for your RSAs, and really it creates some missed opportunities. The goal of qualification is not interrogation. You're not a used car salesperson. The goal is clarity, and when done correctly, qualification feels like helpful guidance, not pressure. It allows you to understand the customer's needs and align those expectations early, and to control the direction of the conversation in a professional and natural way so that it seems relaxed for the customer and relaxed for your salesperson to create the ultimate experience when they're in your showroom, or if your salesperson is in their home with their samples, that it is done professionally and natural and just seems like a free-flowing conversation that ends up ultimately with a sale. Budget is often probably the most uncomfortable topic, but it doesn't have to be. It's really awkward to say, how much do you have to spend? So instead of asking bluntly, what's your budget, strong salespeople frame it around helping the customer make the best decision. So questions like, have you thought about what range you'd like to stay within? Or are you looking for something more entry level, mid-range, or premium? Create an easy entry point into the conversation. And these are perfect questions that align with the good, better, best selling process that we'll talk about in a future episode, because the good, better, best selling process, this approach not only avoids the awkwardness, but also helps you guide the customer towards appropriate options. And at the same time, timeline questions such as, when are you hoping to have this completed? Those help determine urgency and prioritize serious buyers over casual browsers. They help determine if they need it now and you're a stocking dealer, the products that should be your go-to. If they have a longer time frame, maybe it's something else. Our curated showrooms that we've created, that you've created, that I have in my store, they may have the best of the best products in your eyes. But sometimes the product isn't the most important thing. And I know that's probably weird to say. We think of the products as being the overall most important thing, and that the products have to fall within a budget. But it could be cost. If budget and cost is ultimately the most important thing, and they have a lower tier budget, that's going to point you in the right directions. Sometimes it's time frame. They may be really in love with a particular wood or a vinyl plank or a carpet, but if it's going to take 2, 3, 4 weeks to get that product, and you have something similar in stock, that may be more important to them that it get it done quickly for whatever their reason is. They're having company over, the holidays are coming up, they have to get it done during the summertime because they're a teacher. So time frame could be the most important thing to them, or something else. that you're not thinking of because you're afraid to ask the question. So, I always tell my sales staff the only dumb question is the one that you didn't ask. So stay away from yes/no questions and make sure that you are getting that awkwardness out of the way and answering, asking all the things that you need to talk to the customer about in order to point them in the right direction of the products that meet up with their costs, their time frame, and whatever else may be important to them in their purchasing process. So try and keep those things in mind. Another thing that kind of gets rid of the awkwardness is decision maker filtering. I don't know if there's a good way to say it, but filtering, the decision maker filtering, it's just another critical component that protects your time and increases your close rates. Large purchases, especially flooring and decorative purchases, often involve multiple people. And presenting options to someone who can't make the final decision leads to delays and it leads to lost sales. Early in the conversation, it's important to ask questions like, will anyone else be involved in the decision? Or is there someone else we should include before we move forward? It's even more important if your business is a shop-at-home setup. You have to have the decision maker or makers there. This ensures that you're speaking to the right person, and it prevents the need to repeat the process later. It also positions you as a professional in the industry who values efficiency and respects everyone's time. I know a shop-at-home dealer in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area, does a ton of shop-at-home business, does the Costco business for Shaw up in that area, has a number of different Costcos. And, one of the first things and one of the most important things that they always ask is whether both of the decision makers or whomever is a decision maker is going to be there when they schedule their shop-at-home appointments. And if not, so maybe it's a husband and wife team, or maybe it's a brother and sister and they're trying to get their parents' house ready to sell and they're both the decision makers. This company out of Pennsylvania, a very successful shop-at-home company, they require that both the decision makers are there before they'll do a shop-at-home visit. So, if you have a regular showroom and a customer just comes in, you're still in that qualification process stage. So those are still questions that you want to ask. So, if you're just checking out samples, if you're scheduling an estimate to go out to the home, or you're scheduling an in-home visit, make sure that you're asking those questions. It makes you look like a professional who values efficiency, and you're respecting everybody's time by trying to make sure that everybody that is important to the conversation is there. So another qualification area that can get a little awkward is, you're greeting the customer and handling just looking responses. This is where strong qualification skills really stand out. That starts with the greeting and not asking yes/no questions. And we drill this into our sales staff. Most customers will say they're just browsing, or that they're just looking around. Or if you say, are you finding everything all right? They'll just simply say yes. But a lot of times they're further along in the decision process than they'd like to admit. And you aren't located in a mall. You're a flooring store. No one's just coming in to just browse in your store. They came in because you sell flooring and they need flooring. So sell it to them. So instead of backing off, experienced salespeople will gently re-engage with questions that kind of uncover intent, such as, what sparked you to come in today? Or are you replacing flooring in one room or the whole home? These questions open the door to meaningful conversations without putting pressure on them. You're not trying to sell something to them at that point. You're trying to get information from them so that you can point them in the right direction, because ultimately, qualification is about identifying serious buyers, guiding them effectively, and protecting your time, your RSA's time, your team's time, whether that's the salesperson or your estimator or your project manager. And when it's done right, it creates a much smoother experience for the customer and a more predictable, efficient sales process for the business. So don't make it awkward with your customer. You both want them to say the same thing: new flooring. So qualification without awkwardness, we're talking about budget questions, timeline questions, decision maker filtering, budget qualification without being awkward about it. And that's where the good, better, best selling process is going to come in, about the products to show them, how to identify serious versus just browsing customers, timeline control, and then just handling the just looking responses. So protect your time, protect your team's time. And if you can do all of this, if you can, this second step of the 5-step retail flooring sales process, you can qualify your potential customer without making it awkward, and in turn, train and teach your RSAs to do the same thing. And you will be able to leverage your ability to better convert your sales into closes and your leads into sales in the store. And then you're that much closer to mastering retail flooring sales for you and for your RSA. So that's all we have today. Please let me know what you liked and what questions you might have. Remember, you can follow us on all of your favorite podcast locations, as well as on Substack, Reddit, Facebook, LinkedIn. Everything's under the Flooring 101 banner. If you want to get one-on-one and really dive into bettering your business, you can go to jasonjabara.com and book a call. We'll see you next time when we drill down on steps 3 and 4 of that 5-step retail flooring sales process, when we discuss good, better, best selling processes. So until we meet again, continue to build a better business. Thank you for listening to the Flooring 101 podcast. If you found value in today's conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with another flooring professional who could benefit from it. Remember, great flooring businesses aren't built by chance. They're built through systems, leadership, and consistent execution. Until next time, keep learning, keep improving, and keep building a better flooring business.